And welcome back to the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and we're here live from the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub Pavilion and the Edmonton Global stage. We're joining and hosting more than 10,000 people from all over the world. We're here to learn about what's going on across Canada, and especially right here in the Edmonton region on hydrogen. The next session we're running is on fueling the future of hydrogen and the transition. Really, it's the fueling piece that we care about right now. And we've got Jorg Wimbert, who's the head of Canada for the Nikola Corporation, and Bob Blattler, who's director and CEO of Cariboo Clean Fuels. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, so let's maybe start with you, Bob. Tell us a little bit about what Cariboo Clean Fuels is doing.
Yeah. Great. No, thanks for that question, Chris. So we're a developer. With our recent announcement of a partnership with Elemental Clean Fuels out of the United States, we are now their development platform across Western Canada. And what we're looking to progress is an opportunity that we have a hydrogen highway system that starts the development, starts the deployment then of the fuels necessary for the market to progress with.
Okay, so break that down a little bit. So you're building the highways are there, so you're just doing fueling stations along.
Yeah, we've got some strategic locations that we've identified in BC and Alberta, and we know there's announcements that came out this morning that we are encouraged by. Competition is good, right? Especially from a standpoint of what supply is necessary. So that we look to be a part of that. Right, so we will create the opportunity for the dispensing mechanisms, but also the supply that's needed for that.
Okay, and where are you guys based?
Cariboo Clean Fuels is based out of Alberta. Cariboo Low Carbon Fuels, which is a part owner of Clean Fuels, is based out of British Columbia.
Okay, wonderful. And you probably don't need any real introductions. Nikola is kind of the shining star of vehicles and the heavy transport, but maybe for the 3 or 4 people who wouldn't know what Nikola is, can you give us a bit of a walkthrough?
Well, thank you for the kind introduction there, Chris. Yeah, so, Nikola produces battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell trucks, but we are more than truck, and we are more than energy because we combine the two, and we also build hydrogen refueling infrastructure on top of that. So we basically bring the chicken and the egg, the infamous chicken and the egg, to the customer, right? And I'm responsible for the Canadian operations, so the Canadian strategy and the Canadian execution. And yeah, Canada is a super, super exciting market to us. And, Canada is very progressive. And we're now looking forward to working with companies like Cariboo and others to move Nikola forward.
Yeah, so let's just stay on, what Nikola's model is for a second, because again, I think what's really critical, if you're a trucking company, and you're looking to transition your fleet from diesel or maybe from combined fuels, to hydrogen, it can look like a really big jump. But because Nikola's building the hydrogen fuel cell trucks, as well as the fueling infrastructure, it really is an all-in-one solution. So can you maybe just talk about where you're at in that process? Because I think, just a few weeks ago, you opened a facility here in the Edmonton region.
Yeah, absolutely. It still is a leap because it's different technology, but it does the same thing. It's a truck that pulls trailers from A to B, right? And you have to refuel them somewhere. So we just had an opening here at Blackjack's Roadhouse in Nisku. Very proud of it. First heavy-duty commercial hydrogen refueling station in Alberta. Fleets need to learn about the truck, need to understand what the truck feels like, what it's like. We just did a run, I don't know if you saw it on social, but we just did a run from Edmonton to Calgary and back. That was 519 kilometers. We pulled a Bison trailer. Fleets need to understand, what can these trucks do? Can they go from A to B? Can they replace my diesel truck? And how much do I need to invest to make this possible? For me, it's really important for us to bring the chicken and the egg to the fleets and to have the truck and the refueling infrastructure. I think that's really critical, obviously. But then it's also partners like the AMTA, and others to really help make this work. They're kind of an independent organization, It helps fleets understand, well, how do these trucks work? What are their limitations? Give us some data, and that's really good.
Yeah, it seems like it's not that different from what Tesla did, right? They both made cars and supercharger stations so that, customers could feel like there was actually a reliable network that they could plug into. And that's again, very much similar to what your model is.
Correct. Yes, 100%.
Okay. So how do you guys fit into this?
Yeah. Well, you touched on a really important factor, and it's the adoption of hydrogen.
Yeah.
So the adoption of hydrogen that Nikola is looking for, but also the adoption of hydrogen for the dual fuel capabilities, right? So deploying the necessary fueling stations that can complement that transition with the existing fleets as they move towards a full fuel cell electric platform, right? So establishing those maybe longer distances between fueling infrastructure that is necessary for the dual fuel.
Yeah.
And then as the fuel cell electric deployment increases, where you need to be in between those established points.
Right, because you don't turn this on overnight. It doesn't. You say, okay, we want to go hydrogen, and tomorrow you have it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it's low capital cost to do a dual fuel.
Yeah.
But you still need the hydrogen deployment, right? And you still need that available, which you don't produce that overnight. So.
Yeah, and I can briefly add to that. So the strategy is, you look at population centers, like in Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary is the obvious one. Highway 2, 4,500 to 6,000 trucks a day. And then you look at other areas, for example, the GTA, the Greater Toronto area, where we have our dealer, ITD Industries. We're bringing a fueler to their location in a few weeks as well. So then you have fleets running the GTA, and then you connect from there to Montreal. And then what you do is you build up these, I call them micro hydrogen ecosystems, that are self-sustaining. And then, you build those out. Then where the modular stations are, at some point, once you've created density, you build permanent stations, and then you move those modular stations further out. And that's how you build it out. And Canada is quite nice in that way because it has just one artery going east to west, Highway 1, and then it has, basically vertical arteries coming off of that, and that's how you built it out. You built your I guess, ecosystems, and then you connect them, at some point.
Okay, that makes good sense. I mean, for me, I get the mental map of that really quickly, as you say. There's, like for Edmonton, we've got the Yellowhead Highway, Highway 16, that runs, from Vancouver or Prince Rupert straight through, and then eventually, to Chicago and Toronto.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, as well as one that goes south that starts here and goes all the way into South America.
Yeah.
You got it. I like your thinking.
Okay, all right. Well, and again, if we're the hub of that node, that's all good. We can live with that.
Yeah, it's got to start someplace, right? So if you've got those capabilities to supply the fuel necessary for that send out and receive opportunities, and establish the opportunities with respect to a distributed hydrogen model, and then plant the next build outs, right? But also looking at the distributed model about the larger supply centers that are going to be necessary to fuel, 5,000 vehicles, right? So it's not a small amount of hydrogen that we're looking at.
Yeah, and again, which is probably one of the reasons why starting from the Edmonton region makes sense, because we're one of the largest producers of net zero hydrogen in the world, if not the largest.
So a comment about that one. I agree, the Edmonton region is a very large producer of hydrogen. How much fuel cell grade hydrogen is available? I throw that challenge out there, a lot of respect for Premier Smith. She tries to push it forward. She says Edmonton region has a lot of hydrogen. You got to understand, so we need fuel cell grade hydrogen, right? And people need to understand that there's a difference between industrial grade and fuel cell grade hydrogen.
So just break that down a little bit then. So it's more refined, it's more pure hydrogen.
Exactly. There's a certain standard, which is the purity of the hydrogen that you need, which is about 99.97%. And that's what you need in a fuel cell. A fuel cell can't, it only takes the pure stuff. If you put something dirty in it, and then it's not good for the fuel cell. So therefore, that's really important to distinguish between those two.
Okay. Well, again, I think there are I have to be careful because I'm not sure what time announcements are happening here during the show, because there's announcements happening almost all day. But there are some announcements around fuel-grade hydrogen coming, either today or tomorrow that will help expand that out. So it makes me wonder, though, Bob, if it's this, starting with some, mobile stations that prove demand in a location, eventually you build a more permanent station, and you kind of just slowly, grow that out. And what part of that are you guys interested in as that developer? Is it that kind of temporary ability, or is it the more permanent?
Yeah, no, we plan to build, own, and operate.
Okay.
And you touched on it, is that what is the next step,
Yeah.
right? In planting those production centers that allow for the distributed model that Nikola is looking for to support their transition and their adoption. So ultimately, Cariboo is in the game, not just as a developer today, but to build, own, and operate and continue operations for years to come.
Interesting. Okay. So is there a type of project you're looking at? Again, we've got people here from all over the world. We've got investors here looking for what types of projects to put money into. Like, what should be on their or in their minds about what you're up to?
Yeah, we're technology agnostic. We're not developing technology. We're utilizing it, right?
Okay.
So we absolutely agree with Jorg with respect to the purity of the hydrogen necessary for fuel cell deployment or supply, typically electrolytic production, right? Recognizing in a region that may have drought concerns or scarcity of water, other technologies that can be derived from natural gas, methane pyrolysis is a factor, but we'll have to come with some purification process so that the Nikolas can utilize the fuel.
Okay. So again, I'll just go back to that question though. Like, is there a type of project that is, if you could wave a magic wand and say, here's the chunk of land, here's what the suppliers look like, what the purchasers look like, what does it look like?
Yeah, we're looking right across the mobility spectrum, so not just looking at on-road transport, but also looking at rail opportunities, industrial opportunities, eventually some blend opportunities into our natural gas infrastructure. So we're having those discussions today for tomorrow. We're looking at it from a standpoint where what is the market, what is the offtake opportunity, how big of a facility do we need to deploy today?
Yeah.
But how can we grow into it for tomorrow? So we've got some larger scale opportunities that are beyond, 2, 5, or 10 megawatt installations or the similar size of production through methane pyrolysis.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add to that. It's a pretty interesting and very challenging question because, it's for producers, they're like, okay, we're producing, say, 5 tons a day. Here you go, Nikola, are you willing to be the offtake of 5 tons a day? And then we look from our side and we're like, well, are we going to have enough trucks in the market that when the 5 tons a day come online, we have all the trucks waiting in line to fuel up, so that we utilize that capacity. So it's and that's why I always challenge any kind of producer out there. Think about it being able to dial the volumes, where you have industrial consumption as well and all of that. And then you can kind of move the dial towards hydrogen fuel cell grade, and increase that as the demand increases, because that's the only way for us to collaborate and make things work.
Yeah.
And you touched on a great point there. It's diversity across the entirety of the hydrogen economy, right? So the opportunity that you're not dependent just on transportation for one sector, right?
Interesting. And I mean, as the two of you are explaining to me how the industry works, it's obvious that there's a lot of kind of symbiotic relationship between what you're both doing. Are you already working together? If not, looks like you should.
No. Jorg and I have been talking for probably well over 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
Right? Okay. Are we doing anything today? We're still talking. But the hydrogen economy is advancing too. So we're getting to the point now where it's necessary to commence the action and start building the products and or the projects so that we can bring the market to fruition.
Yeah, we are open to any partners. I mean, Bob and I had, as you mentioned, we have been chatting for some time. I mean, it really depends on where you're at, which location, which province, what type of hydrogen. For us, ideally, we'll have larger scale production, liquefied, easier to transport, easier to dispense, but then you need smaller projects as well, and then maybe it's gaseous, maybe you have on-site production. So we work with methane pyrolysis, we work with all kinds of different technologies, because in the end it takes all these inventions, all the players to come together. This takes a village to make it work, and all of us have to collaborate.
Absolutely. It's building a whole new energy economy. It's not a simple thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So we've got only about 3.5 minutes left. So again, we've got about 10,000 people here from all over the world at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. I'm sure you're here with some purpose. So maybe just talk a bit about, what are you, either what are you looking forward to, or are there outcomes that you're thinking of? Again, we've got investors from all over the world that are here. We've got companies from all over the world. Is there something that you want to make sure they know about what you're up to, or something you're really looking forward to seeing or doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nikola is bringing, as you know, battery electric and fuel cell trucks and infrastructure to the world. We are a startup company, so we're willing to partner with anybody. I mean, that's the beauty of working for a startup. Like, you can be, you can find, maybe it's not this solution, maybe it's this. You can be super creative and work with people there. So, hydrogen supply, obviously, we're always looking for supply. It needs to be cost effective. That's the key to it, right? You need fleets to adopt, and you need to have cost effective hydrogen infrastructure. Anybody who wants to play, modular fuelers, locations, anybody who has strategic locations to partner with us to set a modular fueler, in our key provinces that we're tackling right now, which is BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec, let's talk, and if you want to buy a truck, obviously, let's talk. I'm here.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and I can resonate, right? We are a startup too, but we're a capitalized startup in our new partnership. So we're looking at it, what projects we are looking to develop and deploy and to get into operation, but also looking at the strategic partnership opportunities that we might be able to step in with our capital support that can advance the hydrogen economy. So, working with Nikola is important for us because we need to establish that supply necessary. But we're looking at it from an investment and or a capital deployment opportunity as well. So collaboration over the last 4 years across a competitive environment is absolutely what we need to do today to advance the hydrogen economy for tomorrow and actually demonstrate now that we're acting on it, right?
Okay. Fantastic. Again, we're now under a minute, so again, just want to say thanks so much for the two of you for being part of this. It's wonderful that you're here as part of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. Again, real leaders in the field, putting your money where your mouth is to make these things happen, to really build out the future, and to build out the future that's clean for all of us. So just again, want to say thanks so much to the two of you. Really, really happy that you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Okay. All right, so that's the end of what I think is the third panel so far here in the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub Pavilion on the Edmonton Global stage as part of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. We'll take a really short break and we'll be back with the next session. And if you're enjoying conversations like this, we're launching a new podcast called Future Simple. You can search that Future Simple podcast. It'll be full of conversations that are really interesting with industry experts about some of the things that may seem super complicated, but when you've got the best people in the world talking about them, they can make them simple. All right, again, I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and we'll see you again shortly.